What problems does cryptocurrency solve? Well, cryptocurrency actually solves a number of worldwide issues. It's generally cheap, fast, and very secure. Now, Bitcoin at the moment has some issues with speed and cost, and we'll talk about them later. But we've got coins like Litecoin, which is known as an altcoin. It's an alternative to Bitcoin, and it's currently much faster and significantly cheaper than Bitcoin to make transactions. Litecoin is currently just a few cents per transaction, but this may change because the transaction fees do increase or decrease depending on the current market price for a specific coin. But at the moment, Litecoin is really the one to use for making transactions because it's very cheap. Confirmations for these transactions usually take around 10 minutes for Bitcoin, probably a bit less for Litecoin. So they're fairly quick, but they could be quicker. What's interesting is that it costs the same amount to send $100 million as it does to send $10, because you're just paying a single network fee for a single transaction, regardless of what that amount is. And also, no matter how much money you send and no matter where you send it to, the transaction time is also the same. So as we've mentioned this before, but Bitcoin itself is very secure and it has never been hacked. But exchanges have been hacked in the past, and we'll talk about improving your security in another lecture and what to do with money that's on exchanges and how to make it secure. So the unbanked billions, this is a significant problem, a significant worldwide problem that cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin can actually solve. Only 60% of the world's population have any kind of bank account. So that leaves around 2.8 billion people with no banking facilities at all. So banking systems and bank accounts and credit cards and stuff as we would know them, only 60% of the world population have that kind of access. So that does leave billions of people without any access to bank accounts at all. So the majority of people with accounts still have extremely limited access. Many people with little or no banking still have access to a mobile phone. So mobile phones can give the unbanked billions immediate access to cryptocurrencies. Now just think about the implications of that. There's billions of people in the world who have mobile phones but very little access to banking. Cryptocurrencies literally solve that problem. So cross-border transactions. This is transactions between different countries. Traditional banks make cross-border transactions very slow, costly and difficult. And companies like Western Union are just as bad. So sometimes for cross-border transactions, the costs are not even known until less money arrives at the other end. So this is not really very acceptable. Banks can delay, block or reverse transactions at any time. We've mentioned this earlier. With cross-border transactions using cryptocurrencies, this doesn't happen. The unbanked billions have even more issues. So you can imagine if we try to transfer money to another country, we go through all the different banks and it costs a lot of money and it's slow. Well, if you're unbanked, if you're one of the billions of people in the world without access to a bank, you have no chance of sending money to another country. So cryptocurrencies allow fast, secure and cheap cross-border transactions. Cryptocurrencies don't discriminate, so they don't care who you are, how much money you have or where it's going. Cryptocurrencies will transfer like I said before, $10 to another country for the same price as $250 million to the person sat next to you. So there's no discrimination with cryptocurrencies. I believe that for this reason alone, cryptocurrencies will actually change the world. So I have mentioned this little bit before about you are the bank, but I really need to get this point home because it's something you really need to understand. No banks or central trusted third parties are required to run cryptocurrencies. So this means that you yourself are the bank. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but basically if something goes wrong, it means that there's no central place to phone up. So you can't go into a bank, you can't phone up anyone. There's no central place. You are the bank. You are responsible for your own security, your own transactions. That's something that people need to understand about cryptocurrencies. Yeah, you are responsible for the correctness, and this is the amount and the destination of your transactions. So you need to be very, very careful about how much you send and exactly where you're sending it to. You're responsible for the security of your private keys. This is your access to the blockchain. So I'll talk a little bit about private and public keys later on, but a public key can literally be made public to anyone. You can give this to anyone, and all they can do with it is send money to your account, so they can send you money. But with your private key, they get full access, so they could steal all your funds. So you need to be very, very aware of that. But I'll talk about these a little later on. So with this, obviously, comes some serious responsibility. But the advantages are the speed, the cheapness, the freedom, the transparency, and the privacy. These are all benefits of using cryptocurrency rather than using the traditional banking system. So I just want to talk about the $250,000 magic trick. So I was listening to a podcast interview the other day with, and I apologise if I pronounce his name incorrectly, Wences. He's an Argentinian entrepreneur. He described an experiment where he once demonstrated how fast, easy and cheap it was to transfer Bitcoin between people. Now this was a few years ago when Bitcoin fees and transaction times were a lot less. So this is the round the table experiment. Let me explain. So it was once at a conference trying to demonstrate to people how cheap and fast Bitcoin is, and he was having problems. People just didn't seem interested. So he got, I think it was 10 or 12 people to sit around a round table in this conference, and he told them to get their mobile phones out, so they did. He installed Bitcoin wallets onto their phones, and he sat there and transferred $250,000 all around the table, one by one, from phone to phone. And it was really quite quick, very cheap. I mean, luckily this guy's an entrepreneur. He was quite rich at the time, so he had $250,000 to be able to do this. And he did trust the people in the network who were sat around him. But he sat there and passed this money around the table just to demonstrate how cheap and how fast it was to transfer money. And this really did amaze people. And he said that a lot of people after that day, after seeing that little, it's not really a magic trick, it's actually real, they did become involved in Bitcoin because they thought it was amazing.